Welcome everyone, my name is Johannes Achil Niederhauser, and in this video I'd like to share with you why I think Elon Musk bought Twitter. Now usually, if you have been following my channel, I don't weigh in on anything really of the current moment, because philosophy should not really concern itself with the daily news. However, this could be, well, a world historical significant event, and I'm not trying to exaggerate just to get a few clicks. Now, many people think that Elon Musk is a con man, that he's conning the left and the right, and some will think of him as a savior, which is just as ridiculous, and others will simply think that he's just a businessman looking to increase his empire and make a bit more money. However, Twitter doesn't seem to be business-wise an extremely profitable business. So why did he buy it? Is he a crusader for free speech, as the conservatives in the Anglosphere, which of course has spilled over also into Europe, want to believe? Or is he in fact just a right-wing troll, as the liberals and everybody else in their echo chamber also would believe? Now, I think none of that is the case. What he has said today on Twitter, and today's Monday, the 7th of November 2022, is that he wants Twitter to become, maybe it was yesterday on a Sunday, he wants Twitter to become the most reliable source on information. Now, I'm not going to get into here what information is in terms of its quote-unquote ontology. However, what this indicates, and there are other tweets by him that I'll fly in somewhere here so you can read them for yourself, that are absolutely significant to understand why it is that what he's doing. And of course, I have to make a disclaimer here that I don't claim to know for certain why he's doing it. This is just something that I'm speculating about because, however, of what I can gather from what he says. And to come straight to the point, I think the reason he bought Twitter is because he wants to build a global brain, or the global brain, and he wants to also use the data stream of Twitter for his other business, which is Neuralink, which, according to his own proclamations in the public, is what will save humanity, or as I should add, what will be left of it, if his vision of the future comes true, because only by linking ourselves up to the machine will we be able to outcompete the machine. I'm not going to comment on this just now, but so the reason why he has bought Twitter, which is a business decision that makes no sense in terms of business, and it has to do with free speech. But let me say this. Here's a quote from Elon Musk himself. "Being attacked by both right and left simultaneously is a good sign." Now, the word sign is significant, because the word sign to someone who's so completely within the cybernetic circuit, of course, doesn't just mean what it means to everybody else. Elon Musk here literally says that he's getting a signal from the cybernetic circuit that tells him that he is on the right path, because precisely what he requires is, or what the cybernetic system requires in order to improve and optimize itself, is dialectics. It needs a very superficial dialectics, a back and forth between left and right, so that, and this only can happen through free speech, right? So free speech is important, but not for the reason that you think it is. It is important only to create what? The global brain. And here's what Elon Musk said a couple of days ago. Because it consists of billions of bidirectional, we're back with the dialectics, of bidirectional interactions per day, Twitter can be thought of as a collective cybernetic superintelligence. And I couldn't have said it better. He's actually spelling it out for everyone who's willing to listen, why he's bought Twitter. Elon Musk believes that Twitter is already the global brain. And now all that needs to happen is to map it and to optimize the code so that in real time, as they would say, you can map the cybernetic superintelligence and use this to, again, generate the global brain, that absolutely reliable source of information which guarantees the absolutely perfect flow of information without any resistance. That doesn't mean that there won't be resistance between left and right. That sort of narrative resistance is necessary. But what sort of impedes the perfect functioning of the cybernetic circuit is not that back and forth, but is when information isn't found to be true or isn't found to be useful in that very moment for the next chain of signals. So what he's explicitly just telling everyone really who's listening that he bought Twitter specifically for that reason, to perfect the cybernetic circuit across the globe. Take, if you add to that Starlink, his satellite network, then you know really what is going on here. Here's another very crucial tweet by him from a couple of days ago also: a neuron doesn't realize it's a neuron. Now, the neuron, or the neurons here in question, are the users of Twitter. And we don't know yet what we have become, or what we are about to become, which is a neuron through which the cybernetic circuit shoots and reproduces itself, so that the perfect functioning, to what end no one knows, well, to what end? To the end of preserving humanity. But of course one would have to say that this is perhaps some sort of really fundamental radical, let's say, nihilism ultimately, because the goal is purely to self-sustain the cybernetic circuit. Of course, there's also the possibility on Twitter to produce something that we know from, or to generate inception, to instill certain thought patterns within people, and also, again, of course, the dialectics of it. You see, I mean, it's almost bizarre, it's comical and quite entertaining to see the left and the right now freaking out in different ways on Twitter on how either Twitter is dead or how Twitter is back. And it's all happening on Twitter. But that's just a sideshow, obviously. So again, the steering mechanism of the globe is that sort of superficial dialectics of thesis, antithesis, synthesis, which, by the way, is not Hegelian dialectics at all. There will be more videos on Hegel, specifically also on this on my channel. So, but that's not what Hegel says at all. It's just, but it's the superficial Fichtean dialectics that's in play here, where you always make sure that you have generated thesis and antithesis to generate the synthesis, which is also to a certain degree also pre-formatted and pre-given. And again, free speech is absolutely fundamental for that, because it is only when there is at least a certain degree of free speech or freedom of opinion, freedom of thought, that you can utter certain things that are a bit outrageous or controversial, that the cybernetic circuit actually functions better. So there's a smoother functioning when there is an allowance, within this closed circuit of some sort of access. Not all the time, access. Right? It must be excessive at times in order to guarantee its perfect functioning, which is to do what? And this is not about centralization or decentralization, but to encircle the globe from within and from on top, so that the thought patterns can be mapped in real time as they occur, and can be copied in that sense also, so that at any given moment one can verify what's happening and what of it has informational value and what hasn't. So this is speaking of hyper-capitalism, if you like, that would be its ultimate goal, wouldn't it? Of course, to some degree, it's also a pressure release valve. You know, you can incept certain controversial thoughts, and they can then have certain waves again on both sides, because one side says something that's outrageous to the other side, and so they both can release pressure. So you can see how this uncanny, enormous, monstrous wheelwork is trying to find its balance here. So, however, to this, I would say cybernetics comes from the Greek kybernetein, to try and steer a ship. But one cannot control the storm. One cannot control the neurons either. Even if you can map them perfectly, even if you can to some degree instill within them certain thoughts. So one has to be careful, I think, what one wishes for here. But to summarize it again, I speculate that Elon Musk has bought Twitter to link it together with Starlink and Neuralink, and have Twitter as the arbiter, as it were, of information that has true value. It doesn't have to be true, but it has to have true value for the cybernetic circuit, to enclose it further and make it perfectly operational, so that any sort of access is sort of feeding back into it. Because what we've seen over the past couple of years with the stifling of discourse towards one direction is that you have a buildup of disequilibria, of imbalances in the cybernetic circuit. So what you need, and this is why he gets rid of activist, so-called activist programmers, etc. So it's trying to balance out through allowing a certain amount of access, but purely and only, I would claim, to ensure the smooth, perfect, and self-optimizing functioning of the global cybernetic system, at least according to, well, global doesn't mean that it speaks to everyone or that everyone has to be involved, but that those who think, or those who are on, who try to argue and reason, or are more intellectual, etc., they will be in some sense herded and contained, but still allowed to a certain degree their free speech, but precisely because the cybernetic system requires this. But as I said before, cybernetics still comes, at least in terms of the word, it's not purely some sort of a controllable network, but is itself always only steering through storms and tempests that it doesn't control, and even neurons can storm out all of a sudden, and that might be too excessive at some point. So I say it again what Elon Musk said, because it consists of billions of bidirectional interactions per day. Twitter can be thought of as a collective cybernetic super intelligence. And that is exactly why he wants to capitalize on it. And if you're still listening, please do subscribe, and please do support this channel in any way you can. And if you happen to know Elon Musk, feel free to send this to him. Perhaps he takes an interest in it. I'd be keen to hear his thoughts. Thank you very much indeed.